Podcasting is easy for like 5 minutes. Then reality sets in. The reality of making great content that people can't help but share. Podcasting doesn't come with guarantees. So is it worth it? Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. I can't think of a meeting I've had recently with either a client or a prospect where I didn't utter the words, podcasts tend to get the audience they deserve. It's become sort of an axiom of mine, one that represents my overarching worldview of podcasting, if you will. I've heard many other podcasting pundits say something along the lines of, podcasting is a slow burn, or you need to be in this for the long haul. And while I agree with those statements, those all come with a presumption that success is inevitable. Well, you and I know it's not. So at the risk of being depressing, not my goal, let's return to my axiom. Podcasts tend to get the audience they deserve, and unpack that for a moment. What it doesn't mean is, if you build it, they will come. I mean, they might, but they might not. That axiom also does not mean that you can market your way into great success. I mean, that might work for you, but it also might not. So what is it about? Well, first, that phrase, podcasts tend to get the audience they deserve, is first about your podcast, not you, the podcaster. Now, yes, you are inexorably wound together with your podcast. I get that. But for this axiom to work, we need to take the person, the you, out of it and look at the product, the thing that you're making. The podcast is the product is the podcast. And that is what people will or will not decide to make a part of their life. So, does content matter? Well, of course it does, but content is a broad topic. It means a lot of things. Does the sound quality good? That's a good question for you. Or for your show, is the sound quality exceptional? Are the conversations you're having or the things you're talking about, is that good? Or are those conversations riveting? Is the packaging of the content, that means the episode itself, the show itself, your website, all supporting properties, is the packaging pretty good? Or is it done with the utmost care? Again, it's about your podcast itself. Secondly, the axiom is about the show's audience and how the show, the product, fits in their lives. Is the length of the show okay? Or does it fit exactly the need that your audience has? Are they getting new episodes from you, from the podcast, on the right cadence? Or is that not the case and they're stepping out on you, stepping out on your podcast, getting content that they want and that they need from others? Or the opposite may be true. Are you overloading them with content? Is your podcast making them face tough decisions of what else they can't listen to because of your podcast? Does the audience like the host, you, like the hosts, your guests, everybody else that comes on the show? More importantly, do they feel a deep connection to the host or host that almost borders on fanaticism? And is the show so compelling to your audience that they can't help but recommend it to others? Or is this podcast just one of many in their listening app? The third thing about the axiom is the odd word tend that I have in there. Again, podcasts tend to get the audience they deserve. Now, tend means that neither success nor failure of any given show is a foregone conclusion. Tend means that we can, with a high degree of accuracy, predict which shows will grow and which shows will stagnate on a large scale. Again, no promises for any individual show, but taken en masse, we probably can learn some things. But also, tend makes room for some external pressures, if you will, and serendipitous events. I've seen shows suddenly find a much bigger audience when breaking news from the real world collides with a big PR push that the podcast is doing, and the podcast then rides that wave. That's a mix of good strategy and luck. I've also found shows, or I've seen shows, who find a much bigger audiences when, finally, the marketing is really hitting the right placement somewhere. Sure, that can happen. But I've also seen exceptional, high-quality, even critically acclaimed podcasts flop because the timing just wasn't right, or the marketing just didn't work. Or in some cases, the audience's attention shifted to something else. So when you hear me say podcasts tend to get the audience they deserve, that's not necessarily an indictment. I mean, it might be an indictment if you know there's more you could be doing, or if you know there's a disconnect somewhere on your processes, or maybe you feel like you're just going through the motions, then yeah, it is an indictment. And your podcast probably doesn't deserve a bigger audience. But that's a question for you to wrestle with. It's a question for everyone to wrestle with. But I still feel that all things being equal, podcasts tend to get the audience they deserve. Even yours, even mine. It's all really up to that axiom to play itself out. Let's do some boostograms.
Now it's time for the
Boostergram Corner.
Boostergram Corner.
I don't know a thing about crypto.
First, a big thanks to Mr. Dave Henley from AdvertiseCast for the virtual coffee purchase. Thank you. Along with the following note, keep the great content coming, Evo. That I can do, Dave. I appreciate your support. Now, you can also buy me a coffee, a virtual coffee, just like Dave did. You can also send me a boost message using one of the newfangled fancy new podcasting apps. If you also follow me on Twitter, EvoTerra, you can hit that little monetization, that little banknote button up there, and that will send me a small note along with them, some small contribution that you can choose. And if you don't wish to contribute monetarily, or that's just not in the cards right now, you can leave a review in your podcast app of choice or on Podchaser. All of those value for value options and more are listed, weirdly enough, on the Value for Value page. Yes, I'm renaming it. The Value for Value page at podcastpontifications.com/value, the number 4 value. Although I'm probably going to make it work. We'll just type in value for value works too. Regardless of all of those things, I shall be back tomorrow with yet another podcast, Pontifications. Cheers.